Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Convos with Sazón with yours truly. With me today are two very special guests, a father and daughter duo, Pedro y Jenniffer Quezada. They are the co-founders and co-CEOs of Digital Moda. Bienvenidos. Hello, how are you?
Gracias.
This is so exciting.
I have to say, son el primer dúo de padre e hija, and I'm so excited to have you guys here. So, siéntanse bienvenidos.
Gracias.
Qué felicidad tenerlos acá.
Gracias, muy amable. Thank you.
Para empezar, so to start, I want to start with you, Jenniffer.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your early beginnings. Bring me back to your childhood. What interests, what hobbies did you have back then that influence, what you have now decided to dedicate your time to? Y don Pedro, we're going to get to you, te lo prometo.
So I believe my love for fashion started with art when I was very young. I'm an ESL kid. I'm born and raised in New York City, Harlemite, very proud. But my parents taught me Spanish at home, and it was very hard for me to communicate at school because they thought that's the best place where I can learn English. Mm-hmm. So my way of expressing myself was through art. And making friends was through art, showing a smiley face, being like, let's be friends. Or I'll show a face of two girls being friends and like designing a dress. And that's where my love started, through like communication, because I always believed that art can be a form of communication and expression.
Amen.
Yeah.
I love that. Pedro, me atrevo a aceptarle esa confianza que me ofreció.
No se preocupe, siempre.
Jenniffer acaba de hablar, obviamente, de cómo se crió en un hogar bilingüe, en un hogar en el que usted y su esposa le reforzaron el español. Entonces, hable de su experiencia de inmigrante, hable de haber llegado a este país y decidir formar tanto una familia como una trayectoria profesional acá.
En primer lugar, agradezco estar aquí a todos ustedes. Mi mayor ilusión estar aquí con mi hija, y un agradecimiento fuerte para ustedes que me abren las puertas tanto para mí, para mi esposa y para las nuevas generaciones que vienen en adelante. Usualmente llegar aquí un poquito bien duro, un sacrificio, y seguir con esta ilusión, o sea, es bastante duro. Como inmigrante no es fácil. Pero Dios es grande. Dios nos abre las puertas, nos da valor y fuerza para seguir trabajando, preparando, en especial buscando lo mejor para la familia, para el hijo, la hija, ¿me entiende? Porque en verdad la familia es lo mejor que puede haber.
Claro que sí.
Entonces, el inglés de uno prácticamente es lo que uno aprende en nuestros países, es un mínimo, es lo básico nada más. Entonces, eso fue una de las barreras duras para aquí al empezar, y la diferencia, muy difícil adaptarse los primeros años, pero el tiempo lo va dando, ¿no? Una vez que uno se estabilizó, bueno, la familia, mi hija, muy difícil la comunicación entre padre e hijo, porque especialmente el español es el segundo idioma aquí en nuestro país. Entonces, para Jenniffer fue un poquito duro aceptar y empezar a comunicarse en español. Pero la fuerza y la dedicación y estar atrás, doy gracias a Dios, porque usualmente lo consiguió. Muchos errores, quizás uno de los principales, no haberle puesto en bilingüe, porque no hubo esa mentalidad, esa para poder, hubiese estado mucho mejor, pero bueno, el español de ella creo que está como un 80%, un 90%.
Remember ESL? ESL, recuerda que yo estaba en las clases de English Second Language. Yeah, let's never forget that.
Pero sí, un poquito bien complicado.
Sí,
bien difícil.
Me identifico mucho con su historia porque entiendo que son inmigrantes de Ecuador, ¿no? Mi familia es de Colombia y mis papás también, cuando nosotros éramos chiquitos, tomaron la decisión de mudarse a Estados Unidos. Y muy similarmente a la casa de ustedes, como parece, ellos reforzaron muchísimo la importancia de mantener el español en la casa y confiaban que al estudiar en inglés las cosas se iban a dar de una manera que podíamos mantener el español y el inglés. Entonces le quiero dar mucho crédito a usted y a su esposa porque primero que todo es un sacrificio enorme y es una decisión que toman con el corazón en la mano,
Sí.
no sabiendo qué les espera al otro lado, pero siempre con la intención de crear un mejor futuro para su familia, número uno. Y número dos, ese compromiso a su cultura, al idioma y al mantener esa importancia, o sea, no es fácil. Y aunque nosotros como hijos en algún momento de pronto nos resistimos, y lo vi mucho en mi hermano más que nada, siempre se los agradecemos. Así que muchas gracias.
A usted, gracias
Tiene
también.
todo mi respeto. Entiendo
usted.
también que su esposa y usted son costureros.
Sí.
Entonces, hable un poco de eso, de su inicio en ese ambiente profesional y cómo dio a extender esa trayectoria estando acá.
Usualmente parte de lo que es el diseño, lo que es la costura, viene a través de mi familia, de mi hermana que estaba aquí presente, en lo cual se abrió una compañía para trabajar. Trabajamos por mucho tiempo y seguimos trabajando. O sea, hay momentos que hay que tomar decisiones. Muchas de las veces la competencia de lo que es la manufactura es bastante duro y bien difícil. Pero aquí estamos siempre apoyando. Le encanta a mi hija, siempre ha estado que le encanta lo que es del diseño, le encanta lo que es de coser, lo que le encanta la costura. Entonces, ¿quién como uno, como padre, como familia, para apoyarle y darle más fuerza y para que siga hacia adelante, para que se siga abriendo las puertas? Gracias a Dios, las puertas se nos están abriendo poquito a poquito y se va a seguir hacia adelante.
Amén.
No, yo estoy contento con Jenniffer en especial porque el esfuerzo es de ella, porque ella está abriendo las puertas, ella está golpeando las puertas por todos los lados.
Ay,
Oh, Dad.
qué orgullo. Y qué lindo poder darles esa oportunidad de compartir lo que están viviendo juntos. Over to you. No, por favor. Por favor, acá, como les decía, acá estamos como si fuera en la sala de su casa y con confianza. Y muy lindo también ver un poquito de agua, claro. Tome la mía. Jenniffer,
Yes.
that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Mira, I feel the luckiest that I'm able to share this space with you both. Your dad started talking about, his experience alongside your mom, moving to the U.S., starting off in the seamstressing industry. Yeah. I don't know if I said that correctly, but talk about the stories that they would share of how hard it was back in the 90s, how workers were treated, how difficult it was not only as an immigrant, but also in such a demanding industry, and how those stories and anecdotes and firsthand experiences on their end has shaped your interest not only in the industry, but your commitment in improving it as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. They're the reason to why I work really hard and advocate for not just myself and my community, but as well as those that feel like they don't have a voice. And it's so hard, especially in this country, when you work so hard, but no one might recognize it because they feel like they can't show it off. Those 10,000 hours that they put, they can't show it off because they feel like they're silent. And hearing that my parents were here, it's adorable. They met through factory work, and I'm very astonished that they're both from Ecuador, different parts of Ecuador, and they met here while my dad was handing out a flyer for a job at his factory with his sister, and my mom was looking for a job, and she didn't have any family members here. She still doesn't. It's just me and my dad for her, and and that's how they fell in love. And to hear their colleagues complaining about how unfair they got treated, unfairly paid, never paid, while having families and mouths to feed and people to care back in their own countries, because that's the reason why they came into this country, like most immigrants, is to help their families back home. So that was very much the main principle into like my business, where I always believe that details matter into every single history and story that they tell.
And we'll talk about details matter.
Yeah.
I want to also give space to talk about the fact that to add to the difficulty of being an immigrant, of maybe not knowing the language immediately, of trying to make an honorable living, there is the added difficulty that many immigrants face, which is immigration, right?
Yeah.
And maybe being in an undocumented state at the time that you arrive, but still being very committed, obviously, to do your very best work and pave that way for your family. So talk a little bit about that and how relevant that continues to be and how common it still is to this day of, that parallel of there's this stereotype with undocumented immigrants, but through lived experiences and through stories like yours, it really is, it's a circumstance that doesn't define you. However, it makes the journey even harder than it already is.
Exactly. My parents didn't have any papers when they first started the business. And my mom luckily did, but my dad didn't really necessarily have that case. And luckily now he's a citizen. It's taken so many years to get to this point. And I'm really glad I would see him in the shadows. And as of recent, when we were showing off the kit at the launch party, and to see everyone going up to my dad and congratulating him and having the spotlight on him, forget about me. I want to put the spotlight on the man that actually never got the spotlight and felt like he had to hide always. Yeah.
Pedro, a mí me encantan las historias de amor, ¿ok? Y Jenniffer acaba de hablar un poquito de cómo conoció a su esposa. Y en realidad, eso es como que el inicio de la familia que han formado ahora y que juntos dan esas enseñanzas de compromiso, de respeto, de compromiso también al trabajo. Entonces, hable un poquito sobre cómo conoció a su esposa y también cómo los valores compartidos que han formado ustedes se representan en el negocio que tienen ahora.
Es que uno de los factores principales es la confianza que se tiene dentro de la familia. Y bueno, hay que seguir preparando y hay que seguir hacia adelante, porque en verdad siempre va a haber tropiezos, siempre va a haber hay que saberle soportar muchísimas cosas, porque en verdad doy gracias a Dios porque tengo mi esposa que me ayuda en todo sentido, en todo lo económico, en lo moral y en lo que es. Entonces creo que sacó mucho de todo esto mi hija, porque prácticamente ella está en estos casos, ¿no? Mi familia, como le digo, tengo mi familia, parte de mis hermanos, parte de mi esposa, casi no hay nadie aquí, pero usualmente nos tiene aquí a los dos. Estamos aquí, estamos preparándonos para lo que venga.
Oh my God, I love that woman. If I can be 30%.
Can we please give her a shout out? ¿Cómo se llama tu mami?
Shout out to Dolores Bruno. T.
She's not with us in person right now, but I can feel her spirit.
She's so awesome. If I could be 30% of how nice she is, oh my God, Mother Teresa, call me.
Hablemos de los valores and the values, the values that your family pushes forward, both in a professional light and in a familiar light. Empezando con usted, cuénteme sobre esos valores que tanto le dan importancia y que le han enseñado a ella, y seguramente le enorgullecen saber que ella sigue como que operando de una manera que alinea con esos valores que le enseñaron.
Los valores siempre están dentro de la familia, o sea, prácticamente como padres siempre yo he estado atrás de mi hija, enseñándole, inculcándole lo bueno. O sea, no es fácil para tenerle a la hija como está ahora. O sea, uno tiene que tener que estar mucho la responsabilidad. O sea, siempre ha habido ese miedo, como una niña que nació aquí y prácticamente el barrio donde New York especialmente es donde vivimos, West Harlem. Entonces tenía el temor, el miedo que Jenniffer puede desviarse, y, o sea, es muy duro, o sea, es bastante difícil, o sea, tanto en la high school, porque en high school hasta el middle school es ok, usted está atrás de ella, pero ya en el high school ya usted tiene que estar atrás, porque si es que no está atrás de ella, ella se va a salir.
Y es un miedo que todos los padres tienen, o sea, por más educación que tengan en la casa, hasta cierto punto se les sale de las manos y tienen que confiar que los valores que le inculcaron la van a guiar a tomar decisiones buenas. Así que, bueno, mira.
Sí, eso es lo que le digo, o sea, el sacrificio que se ha hecho, no con riquezas, porque en verdad el sacrificio, a base del esfuerzo y el trabajo, nunca he vivido del gobierno, jamás. A lo mejor en el futuro, quién sabe, ¿no? Pero, o sea, siempre hemos trabajado fuerte,
Sí.
o sea, para verle surgir a ella. O sea,
Sí.
el amor por la educación ella siempre ha sido, o sea, ha estado preparándose, ha estado leyendo, o sea, yo uno como padre ve todo ese esfuerzo, ese carisma que tiene, entonces vamos atrás, vamos atrás, vamos atrás.
Y si me permite corregirlo, dijo de pronto no con riquezas. Y seguramente se estaba refiriendo a riqueza financiera, pero
Financiera.
rica en amor,
Exactamente.
en enseñanzas y en cultura.
Sí, sí.
Oh, yeah.
Usualmente que eso le digo, ahí está lo rico, lo positivismo que tenemos, o sea, ver el esfuerzo del trabajo parte de la esposa de uno como padres, o sea, hemos estado atrás de ella. Ya cuando ya entró al college ya no. En high school también, bueno, es duro, ¿me entiendes? O sea, ya
Sí.
prácticamente ella decía, ya quiero ser adulta, quiero ser esto, y nosotros atrás.
Todos
Nosotros
tenemos
atrás.
ese momento.
And then I found out about taxes, and I was like, oh my God.
Just kidding.
Never mind. Let's go back.
Okay, so we've talked at great length about values, about your family life.
Yeah.
Tell me about how that has laid a foundation for how you've chosen to live your life personally and professionally. And also tell me about the inception of your business and how your parents realized that the skills that they had were not only tools and talent, but they were more than enough to potentially make a living and kind of break out of the conditions that they were used to and set their own terms.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's insane because whenever I go back to Ecuador and we come from humble beginnings, my mom's from Guayaquil, my dad's from Cuenca, I would see like the little house that my grandmother like raised a bunch of kids that I'm still like astonished she raised that many kids. But it was so normal back in Latin America to have that many kids. And that's what made us also united because of how many kids were just looking after each other that turned out to be my uncles and aunts and cousins and primos and primas and like extended family members, but that's the values that always protected me. And like growing up in Harlem, it wasn't the easiest because I would see like, let's just say one of my vecinos getting shot and then him being back in the streets again and then him asking me, why aren't you following the same pathway as I am, like the rest of us kids in this building? And instead I just sheltered myself to just sketching at home and trying to like close out like all the gunshots I would hear at night or like the fights I would hear at night. My parents tried to make sure like I was always protected, and the communication as well with them made sure like I can trust them in telling them, hey, I'm on my way home. But that's also another reason to why I worked hard because I knew I didn't want to be in that same situation for my future kids, for my future generation, for my friends' kids that are going to look up to me because I see them like as my brothers and sisters as well. And I know I'm an only child, but like I've seen the world as let me take care of you. Let me make sure that you're okay. I'm very much a good neighbor to everyone. And yeah, I've had examples like Dapper Dan, who's very famous in Harlem, famous designer, worked for Gucci, but his story was one of the stories that like I looked up to. Even A$AP Rocky, and even so Oscar de la Renta, somebody I like felt like, okay, if they can make it, I can do it as well. If those skill sets are in me, I can make it happen. What's the worst that can happen? I kept saying that. Put your feet on the ground like pancakes. You got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned how you've always been interested in fashion and
Yeah.
obviously having your parents as examples of what that could look like, right, at a baseline level. At what point did you decide, I too want to join this side of the business? You know, did you always know you wanted to go this path? When you studied, what did you end up studying?
And it's so crazy you asked that because like, it's like, I don't even think about it at times. I felt like it was just naturally coming to me always. Like I grew up with my cousins not really wealthy, and like we all shared a single apartment with 3 bedrooms, a bunch of family members in there. Remember pa cuando tenía hasta los 8 años estuvimos en un cuarto pequeño y pues I saw that as still a blessing. We shared a bed up until when I was 8, and my mom and dad were like, we have to make a sacrifice to give her some space. But all those sacrifices I've taken into account, and I didn't have much money to like find fabrics or go to Mood or go to fabric store. Even though they were working in factory work, I didn't take any of the scraps I would take, but I wouldn't take necessarily fabric from like a client work. And it was a slow process because they weren't making money in those first years. And the year that they started finally making somewhat money, while also my dad was taxi driving, while my mom was also a home attendant and working on this business, they would work 24/7. I always tell them, holidays, you'd work on taxi driving during Christmas, New Year's. You'd come over just to do the countdown, and then you'd go back to like working on picking up passengers. And the next day you'd go to pick up fabric and go to the bank and hope for the best. But I think after spinal surgery when I was 13, my dad was like, I have to stop this and focus on my kid. Left the business to my uncle to take care of it. And that's when he focused on taxi driving so you can be more flexible. And it was hard because I didn't have friends at the time.
It's so hard.
I was the
Mira, o
awkward
sea, mis
kid.
ojos están aguados porque, puchas, esto es una historia
Yeah.
de la cual muchos se pueden identificar y no es fácil y es un testamento a los sacrificios que hacen nuestros familiares que con la fe de que va a valer la pena.
Yeah.
Y ustedes, o sea, son, sí lo que digo, es ese testamento que sí valió la pena.
You're gonna make me cry.
This is gonna be a cry fest.
Yeah, literally.
Lo duro, o sea, lo difícil es como padre, como familia, ver, sentirse la noticia que su hija tiene problemas. Le parte el alma.
Sí.
13 años. No es un pequeño, es una operación súper fuerte.
¿Qué pasó a los 13 años? Porque no hemos hablado de eso todavía.
So I was born with scoliosis, but they didn't detect it because, like I said, growing up in Harlem, we didn't really have the best resources as we have now, thankfully, in the neighborhood. Things have changed for the better, thankfully, but we didn't have the best medical care for the community back then. And the hospital I was born in didn't detect my spine was deviated. And it took me having a random pediatrician cover for my regular pediatrician to be like, hey, I know you're a fat kid, but your back is kind of curved. Let's get some x-rays done. And I was like, all right, let's do it. What's the worst that can happen? I've always said that. It came back that I had two curvature on my top spine and my bottom spine to the point that I had to wear a brace 24 hours, 7 days a week. That made the kids not want to talk to me. So I really didn't have friends growing up. So I turned to like designing and art. And I always believed that art is a way to be a best friend for somebody that feels alone. And there were times where I felt like, is it worth it? Is it worth continuing?
And so you found this out at 13, is what your dad was starting to say?
Yeah, and we went to,
12 or 13, something like that.
yeah, we went to a couple of hospitals. I lost track after 8. My mom, of course, like every Latino parent, we would be the translators for them. And there's so much I can translate at 8. And we tried to look for different hospitals, and each hospital just kept giving us the scariest answers. Oh, we can do surgery this way and that way, and into two different parts. It was still a new surgery, a new performance for the medical industry, a spinal surgery, spinal infusion it's called. It was still new, relatively new. My mom's client, she's a home attendant, told her, why don't you sign up for HSS, change up your insurance. We changed it about 3 times, and we finally got approved for a surgery that cost almost $500,000 because I had to stay there for a month because I couldn't walk or move I was practically paralyzed. I had to learn how to move all my nerves again, and it wasn't easy at all. at all. Not having friends either, so I didn't have really anyone to like lean on. I was going through my teenage phase, my little awkward phase where I asked myself, is it me? Oh no. And then you feel insecure at that age. So you can't really explain that to your parents. So, but all of those things, even though we were both silent and we really didn't communicate on how we both felt, especially being a first generation American, it's very hard to like tell your parents who have a different mindset on how they're raised, and you want to break those generational like traumas and not have those same habits. It's hard to communicate, but I think just being a visual person, like seeing them like working, my dad going to taxi drive and being like, every time passing by the hospital, hello, Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. Bye, Jennifer. Because my window was facing the highway, remember? So we always still say that. We still say that till this day whenever we pass by HSS. And,
Son recuerdos que uno tiene y pasa, pero, o sea, eso a veces las emociones me agarra el sentimiento.
Yeah.
O sea que uno empieza a trabajar cuando empieza y ve las consecuencias que va suscitando para la familia. Entonces usted le duele el alma porque prácticamente cuando vi estos problemas, para mí se acabó todo.
Claro.
¿Me entiende? O sea,
Su única hija, además.
no hay trabajo. Dije, a mí me importó nada. Ya, ¿para qué trabaja? ¿Para qué usted hace? No. Y doy gracias a Dios, como le digo. Aquí lo tiene. Porque escuchar al médico, que le dice mi hija, escuchar al médico, al doctor, no te preocupes, somos 6 horitas nomás que ya sale, pero usted en su mente no tiene ni idea de lo que está pasando.
Se imagina lo peor,
No.
seguramente.
Entonces, yo con mi esposa en la sala, esperando a ver qué pasa, ¿no? ¿Qué solución? Y a mí ya no me importó ninguna otra cosa.
Claro.
Ni trabajo, ni nada, ni el estudio de ella. O sea, como padre usted quiere que todos los días esté ahí en la escuela, que no falte un día buscando las citas médicas, pero antes que esté.
Claro.
Buscando al médico por la tarde para que no pierda clases, para que esté ahí totalmente enfocada.
Sí.
Pero cuando ya vi esto, se me derrumbó, se me cayó todo, ¿no? Todo. Entonces, por eso a veces usted me ve un poquito medio caído, pero luego subo. Son cosas bastante difíciles, ¿me entiende?
Sí.
Creer cuando el doctor dijo, su hija se va a quedar de ese porte, ya no va a crecer más. No, o sea, automáticamente son como, ¿cuántas piezas que te sacaron?
Oh my God, they took out like this chunk
La
of like
columna.
my back,
Oh my
just to
goodness.
straighten out my back.
Tiene metal.
Yeah. So 2
So
metal
you're low-key a robot.
rods. Low-key a robot.
Y se
I
mueve bien.
robot.
Entonces esos sentimientos a veces me llegan muchísimo.
Claro.
Yeah.
¿No? Me duele.
Shout out to Dr. Blanco. He's still a pediatric surgeon. I saw him the other day because I just got diagnosed too recently with an autoimmune condition. So that
Y veo ese esfuerzo que ella tiene.
Sí.
O sea,
that's good too.
el poder con todo lo que ha pasado, con todo lo que sucedió, está adelante.
Yeah.
Sí.
No se queda.
No.
Eso es lo que yo me siento orgulloso de ella.
Sí.
O sea, por el dolor que se vivió.
Sí.
Y ahora.
Energía, energía, energía. Energía, energía, energía. Todos los días. Jennifer, energía, energía, energía. And I'm like, oh my God, this dude.
O sea, no demuestro, yo trato de no demostrar a mi esposa ni a ella. O sea, soy un tipo tan fuerte, pero llega el momento que
Claro, y además en nuestra cultura
me caigo.
y en generaciones anteriores desafortunadamente nos han enseñado que mostrar estos sentimientos, ser vulnerable y decir que uno siente miedo o dolor está visto como una debilidad, pero en realidad somos humanos. Somos humanos y cuando llegan esos momentos es natural sentir esas cosas. Entonces, me alegra mucho que se sientan la comodidad de compartir eso. Obviamente no es fácil pero nuevamente hablando sobre el orgullo que siente por ella, o sea,
Sí, me
sí,
siento
obviamente
orgulloso.
ella ahora es su propia mujer
Oh, yeah.
y tiene su
independiente.
personalidad,
Oh,
Es
yeah.
muy independiente.
pero nosotros como hijos somos extensiones de nuestros
Sí,
padres.
sí. O sea, es muy amorosa. O sea, el cariño que ella tiene es bastante.
Sí.
Muchísimo, créame. O sea,
Lo creo y no lo dudo.
las familias que a veces existen aquí, o sea, son muy separados. O sea,
Sí.
ella es una dulzura, ¿me entiendes? Gracias a Dios.
Qué
Me siento
belleza.
feliz porque estoy ahí. O sea, estoy ahora para seguirle la costura, para seguirle, porque ese es el sueño de ella, ¿no? Y lo que estamos haciendo es ser independiente,
Claro que sí.
que siga así de independiente.
What I've really learned, I would say, from that experience was, well, recuerda el cirujano Dr. Blanco ni le dijo a mom, dijo, come Jennifer, I don't want to say anything, pero this is a very risky surgery. It's bien risky.
Sí,
It's a new
pero
surgery.
nadie sabía.
Don't tell your parents because I know you're their only
¿Sabe
kid. They're
cuando,
going to freak
cómo
out.
se llama usted?
Catalina.
Catalina. Cuando el doctor viene y me dice, pueden venir a verle a su hija. Yo pensé que ya, en verdad, ya estaba ya para pasarle. Un monstruo lo que era.
Yeah.
Era un monstruo. Ella no, o sea, prácticamente está edad y
You
todo.
couldn't recognize me
No,
at all.
so, no lloré. Ahora mejor yo lloro después de felicidad.
Yeah.
No, porque
Y alivio.
no por lo que ver cómo está ahora. Pero ese tiempo no.
No.
Fuerza. No sé dónde sacaban, pero no me caía, me largaba al baño, perdón la palabra,
Sí.
a llorar un poco para que no me vea mi mujer llorando, porque
Claro.
no le quería dar esa mala vibra a ella también, ¿no? Le quería darle fuerza, pero aquí estamos.
Y aunque ese fue un desafío en el camino, ¿cierto? O
Ese
sea,
fue el
este es
desafío.
el propósito de estas conversaciones.
Sí.
O sea, el demostrarle a la gente que
Se puede.
uno se puede, pero aparte de eso, uno no tiene control sobre absolutamente todo en la vida. Y aún así, cuando uno tiene familia, cuando tiene un sistema de apoyo, uno busca la manera de seguir adelante, aunque mirando hacia atrás, uno se da cuenta como que no sé cómo lo hicimos, pero lo hicimos.
Sí.
Oh, yeah.
Eso-
Hablemos ahora, después de eso, o sea, que obviamente marcó la vida de todos de diferentes
Sí,
maneras,
sí.
¿cómo sacaron la visión de Digital Moda? O sea,
my
¿cómo
God.
surgió esa idea de independicémonos, montemos
Jennifer.
este negocio familiar?
Jennifer.
So tell me about the official start of Digital Moda.
So, when after surgery and my doctor telling me, you know, you could die at 13, all I thought was, man, I didn't have my first kiss. And then I thought, damn it, I really didn't do the things I wanted to do, roller skate, the little simple things that I wish I didn't design a dress I wanted to design. I did it in paper. I put paper towels and sketched on all my Barbie dolls because I didn't want to waste fabric. And with that mindset, I started out Digital Moda because I kept thinking, okay, so what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? Some people laugh at me. They're not paying my bills. They're not me. At the end of the day, I'm going to be left with my own thoughts and my own guilt and my own feelings in my bed. Not my parents, not my friends, not my family, not my clients, myself. I have to make myself proud. That's the first person I have to start thinking about more often. Yeah.
I love that conviction.
Yeah.
And it sucks, honestly, that you have to be put sometimes in a life or death situation
Yeah.
to act.
Yeah.
You know, life is too short, as cliche as
Yeah.
that sounds. La vida es demasiado corta para esperar para que alguien te entregue la oportunidad. So I love that despite the circumstances, it ignited something in you to be like, it's now or never, you know? And that's exactly why we need to talk about these types of stories more often.
Yeah.
Because hopefully it doesn't have to take a life or death situation for people to be like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. Y vamos a ver qué pasa. So for those who are not familiar yet, because they will be after this conversation,
Yes.
with Digital Moda, tell us what you all have set out to do. You started to talk about, you know, the initial kind of step in that direction, but talk about what came after that and then also what it's turned into.
Yeah, absolutely. I believed. So when I first started working in fashion, I became an intern. I didn't want to just get a job because I know people or et cetera. I wanted to work it up. I'm not a Nepo baby, y'all. No way.
And how old were you
Not
at that
all.
point?
I was 17.
Okay.
I was asking around for internships. I was going around corporate offices. I didn't ask my dad for permission. I just did it by myself. And I went to the garment district right after school and just went to every office that I saw on Google, and I knocked on those doors, and gave them my resume, did an internship. Then I knew my uncle was still in business. I went to him like, hey, this is my resume. I'm going to apply. What can I do here? I've gotten some experience. I've gotten a year of experience as an intern in design. Let's make it happen. And then I started working as an assistant, as a pattern maker assistant, accounting, a little bit of everything. But then even so, as I was consulting as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old, in 2018, something in my head said, no, like I'm snapping right now. I'm not going to continue the same habits as much as it is very hard to work with family. I'll say that right now, because if it's not their way, it's not any way. Like it has to be their way, and it's their business. And I understand that. But when you want to make a change in this world, you have to do it yourself. So that's when I overdrafted my college account, negative 100, and I made my LLC because I felt like once I saw it on paper, it'll be so much better for me to process that this is a real thing. I brought in all those consulting skills that I've had to guiding clients into production, where, of course, my initial slogan is creating, designing, producing, where details matter to my clients and myself as well, because they put their time and efforts into us. So we should reciprocate with the same energy and make sure that they're getting their execution right.
So you started this at 20.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
I'm 28.
Girl.
Coming
8
so
years.
Oh my God. It's been
O sea, me quita el sombrero. As you
been a
should.
journey. Yes, yes. Oh my God. And like, I remember I went to a coffee shop with my friends and I was complaining about my boss. I'm like, oh my God, this dude, like, I didn't consider him like at work as my tío. I just saw him as boss.
Yeah.
My boss did not do this right, and he didn't do this right, and I could have done it better. Why doesn't anyone believe in me? Because I'm young? Is it because I'm a woman? I want to know what's wrong with this. And then my friend goes, go on the New York State website, make your LLC, damn it. You're smart. What's stopping you? I'm like, you're right. And then I'm about to finish. I have 5 minutes left to like confirm the name of the business because they have a timer on it. And I'm like, wait, I haven't even like made a name for my business. Wait, I majored in tech for fashion and digital. It's going into the future, moda, because it's my major, digital moda. Let's just run with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Truly,
Yeah.
what a process.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that behind the scenes, because not enough people talk about this side of a business. You know, everybody thinks that you launch a business and you have it all figured out and it's buttoned up from the beginning.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's a product of hard work, first and foremost,
God,
but
yeah.
also an evolving vision. Because I'm sure that you can attest to what you thought you were setting out to 8 years ago still maintains at its core, but it now looks different.
Oh my God.
You mentioned details matter, and that's at the core of your business. So tell me what that looks like in practice. Ahorita hablamos contigo un poquito sobre lo que significa para usted la importancia de los detalles. Entonces, vaya pensando y ella va respondiendo.
Oh man. So like I remember whenever we had a smaller client, not necessarily a Marc Jacobs, an Oscar de la Renta. Whenever we had those type of clients, I remember the criteria was a minimum, and that stuck with me. Oh, I can't afford it. I have to like get into my savings account to start out my my first fashion brand, or like it's a mom and pop store that wants to make some screen printing shirts just to like show around what their business is about and just promote their business through clothes. And it's a whole psychology behind what you wear and how you express it. That's a minor also I put in as into my studies at City Tech. So yeah, those things, all those things like geared up into like one single mission where details matter. And I sat down with these clients, hearing every single one of them saying the same thing, the same pattern of, The doors were closed on me because I wanted a single image with this specific Pantone color, and they said no because it's a minimum of somewhat 20 or etc. And I was like, that's not fair. You should have the opportunity to open your own business as well, just like I did and my family did. So let's bring it on. What's the worst that can happen? I'll suggest you any other alternatives. If there's a budget, we'll figure it out together. You're not alone. I'm holding your hand. This is scary to spend a lot of thousands of dollars into something that you believe in, because you can believe in the product is perfect and beautiful, but others might not see that vision. And it's a risk that they take. And I want to make sure at least I can ease the nervousness, the pain from worrying onto me, and we can work on this together. Yeah.
Absolutely. ¿Cuál es la importancia para usted del lema que lleva la marca que ustedes tienen ahora, que es el significado y la importancia de los detalles?
La importancia de los detalles es que siempre la marca que tiene Jenniffer, que siga hacia adelante para subir todo hacia el mercado, porque el mercado es bastante competitivo, es muy fuerte, pero hay que trabajar, hay que seguir hacia adelante, créame, porque el esfuerzo es lo que vale, y eso es lo que tengo puesto los ojos en ella, para que siga hacia adelante. Ella no se va a quedar, créame.
Hasta
No.
cuando nosotros hablamos de cuando un cliente viene a nosotros, no, es half an inch, no, es un cuarto de un inch. Esos son los detalles pequeños que nosotros nos notamos cuando es un trabajo de cliente.
Buscamos lo mínimo para poder sacar exacto las medidas y todo eso, ¿no?
Exacto.
O sea, porque si nos viene y nos dice un cliente, esto es así, nosotros tenemos que ponerle un poquito más fuerza y demostrar que el trabajo salga muy perfecto, ¿no? Para que,
Claro que sí.
no se pierda. Y hay que seguir trabajando.
Sí.
No, hay que seguir, hay
Claro
que
que
ponerle
sí.
más.
Nosotros somos las guías de ellos
sí.
y segura que ellos están en la dirección correcta.
Ahora tengo Jenniffer, ahora yo no soy el profesor, ella es la profesora.
Qué bello, porque creo que aunque usted muy seguramente cree eso,
Sí.
uno como hijo siempre está aprendiendo,
Yeah.
pero también es una realidad que como nosotros vemos el mundo de una manera diferente, tomamos esas enseñanzas y formamos nuestra propia perspectiva.
Sí.
Y también enseñamos a los padres.
Y
es
hay que
una
respetar.
Sí, claro que
Y
sí.
hay que respetar.
Y el respeto es mutuo,
Sí.
de las dos direcciones.
Hay que respetar. Eso le digo porque no es fácil.
Sí,
En especial este negocio, hay una competencia grandísima.
Yeah.
claro.
No, porque usted empieza y hace los patrones, hace todo. Luego va y le da el producto y hasta otro que está compitiendo con usted. El otro viene y le dice, bueno, este es otro precio y usted se quedó.
Exacto, perdemos el cliente. Es como cuando tú me conversabas cuando era pequeña. En los 90s era un boom. La mayoría de las factorías estaban en
Había
el Garment
muchísimo
District.
trabajo.
Había bastante factorías, trabajo de cantidad.
Muchísimo,
pero
muchísimo.
el problema era que la mayoría de la gente se fueron a la China,
Salió
India,
de aquí.
Pakistán, se fueron afuera del
Salió
país.
fuera, sí, salió.
Y porque obviamente era más barato el labor.
La mano de obra, sí.
Exacto.
Mm.
Y todo eso, pero es una industria que se está muriendo tristemente en
Sí.
nuestro país.
Sí.
Yeah.
Y vamos a hablar de eso en un momento. Primero, I have to say, this is Digital Moda's work
Yeah.
for everyone, okay? The New York City FC kit. And I want to talk about the work that you all do, because you all offer everything from pattern making to production,
Yeah.
and if I'm not mistaken, one of your first projects was masks, right?
Yeah.
Face masks in honor of COVID and the pandemic. And you've evolved to now working with big brands like New York City FC in their kits and the jersey. So talk about that evolution, number one, and then also what the production process, regardless of what the product is, looks like on your end.
Oh man. Okay. So we started out with fashion. Of course, we're still with fashion. We're still in the fashion industry.
Fashion can mean different things, though.
But fashion can mean many different things. It can mean protection. It can mean a way to style yourself, your personality, and how you visualize the world and how you express to the world. But Yeah, no, we started out with fashion, and then somehow I got a DM from one of my friends. Hey, I let one of the guys at NYCFC know that you're doing PPEs for the community during COVID. We had COVID the first round, and
Wow.
it was so difficult to see my dad. You were purple, you were blue, you were so many colors. We really thought we were going to like lose you because we couldn't even take you to the hospital. I was down sick. My mom was down sick.
Wow.
And like we also were working with the factory and with my business. So my uncles were on site, my aunts were on site with PPEs on, with the workers, making sure that they're protected as well. But they started asking New York State and New Jersey and Connecticut, do you know any like factories to like reinvent the wheel and start doing PPEs rather than clothes, and utilizing those skill sets? And that's when we were able to start learning how to make PPEs. And yeah, when NYCFC reached out to us, we were like, wait, why? We're going to make PPEs out of jerseys? Oh my God, wait, okay, let's make it happen. And they sent us a bunch of like PPEs from like the warehouse. I mean, not PPEs, the jerseys from the warehouse into making PPEs. And we produced it. And I remember it was my graduation year too. So I was wearing my cap and gown while my graduation was in the background. And I was around the factory. At the time I was recovered from COVID. We were done. It was June. I had my cap and gown. I was just celebrating with my family by making PPEs for the community, because we are for the city and we are by the city. So,
Speaking of by the city,
yeah.
When you and I first met, one of the things that still stands out to me is the fact that Digital Moda's home was the garment district.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as many businesses have also experienced, you all were pushed out by the rent increases. So you're currently based in Jersey, right? Tell me what it's like, you know, to be at the intersection of being an immigrant, being a Latino, especially in an industry that is so exclusive, working hard, doing everything by the book, and even still continuing to have to roll with the punches of things like that are out of your control. Making the most out of the situation and picking up your business and taking it wherever it is that you could find without it letting affect your production process and the faith that you have in both the work that you do, but also the mission you're pushing forward.
Yeah, it was so tough. It was like the hardest thing I think within my career, because this is the same location that my parents started out the business with the family. And my dad passed the baton and was like, you got this, dude. You got this, bro. You got this. And we continued to be there. And that's where Digital Moda's home was. And then we sadly got pushed out, like a lot of factories in the garment district, a lot of businesses that got pushed out because a lot of mom and pops were told, you're not enough. You're not paying more. We want to increase it to push you out. And that's what a lot of us New Yorkers also even feel when we're renting out. And a lot of these landlords might even like more so like push them out of their home base into states that they don't even consider home, but they had to in order to survive. Even so, now with that case, we had to like do what we had to do and find a spot immediately, as soon as possible, and it had to be close to like Midtown. So we found a spot in Jersey that is like 15 minutes away, luckily. But I'm a New Yorker, so I kind of am like, for the city by the city, let's make it happen. Let's get back to home base. And we were there for longer than we initially believed, because it happened even like, I would say like a couple months before COVID started. So it all just came down happening. COVID started. We had to move at the same time.
You were graduating.
I was graduating.
You were in production.
Yeah, everything was happening all at once. And like when school was still in, I was a full-time student and I was a full-time
CEO, girl.
I was like, oh my God, where can I catch my breath? When? And my friends would be like, let's go out. And it sucks because I felt such FOMO in my 20s, because I felt like I was missing out on the clubs and like the parties and all these fun things I wanted to do. And I felt like, damn, I didn't get to do them. But now that I'm 28, I'm like, it's worth it. It's worth everything that I missed out on. It sucks that I didn't go to these clubs, but I know I built something special for not just myself and my family, the staff, but as well as a kid that probably didn't think it was possible.
Yeah.
So.
And the clubs will be there, girl.
Yeah.
First of all, the clubs will be there.
Exactly.
Not everyone can say that what they've done is so mission driven. So you should be proud of yourself as well. Timeline wise, okay? You established Digital Moda when you were 20.
Yeah.
How soon after did you all establish yourself at the Garment District?
We were already there.
Okay.
Yeah, we were already there.
How long were you at the Garment District before you had to move to Jersey?
2 years.
And how long have you all been in Jersey?
We're still there. We're leaving though.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get to that in a
Yeah.
moment. But how long in Jersey up until now has it been?
So 2020 until
About 6 years or so?
6 years, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That's been a process.
I know.
Okay, now tell me what's coming up.
So we're looking for a new location now, and I'm really excited because I
Felicitaciones.
love it. We're looking for a new location. We woke up so early. I woke up at 5 a.m. today. I slept at 1 talking to one of my business partners on creating a business plan because we're trying to look for investors, sponsors, etc. The bells and whistles of a business that comes with all the nuances and stuff to make sure that we have the budget to do all this. And then it was 5 a.m. I'm like, oh, I don't want to wake up, but I have to be awake and get ready so we can see this place at 7. We liked it, but we were like, it's not for us. I want to make sure that this space is not just for the staff, for myself, but also my clients, and like an event space for where anyone that wants to come in, an FIT student, a City Tech student, wants to like come and work on their pattern and their creation. There's a pattern making table right there for you, and
Beautiful.
fabric, and like at the same time, there's a whole production team right behind you. If you have a question, tap on one of us and just ask us, am I cutting the right way? Am I measuring wrong and right? I want to also teach classes on the weekend to those students that aren't able to afford those expensive college course classes, and they want to start. That's what I did in high school. I saved up my money. I did my pre-college classes at FIT from ¿a qué horas? De las 6 hasta la medianoche, ¿verdad? Like a 17-year-old, 16-year-old, 15-year-old shouldn't be out at that time, but I would cover myself, and I lived in Harlem too, so to take the 1 train at that time, it was very scary. I would be on the phone with my dad. Okay, ya llegué a la 137. Estoy caminando. Estoy por el McDonald's. Ya yo voy. Estoy caminando rápido. But I would save my communion money, my confirmation money, any birthday money just to get that. And I know there's a kid out there in New York City
Or elsewhere.
or elsewhere, Jersey, Connecticut, even the world, that wants to make it happen. And they feel like they can't because they don't have those resources. But I feel like everyone should be able to.
I see so many parallels between your story growing up and the story that you shared about your dad, of working around the clock, la disciplina, el compromiso.
Es fuerte.
O sea, impresionante.
Es fuerte, créame.
Espero que se sientan muy orgullosos
yo me
los
siento
dos.
contento en verdad, porque los esfuerzos que ella ha hecho y sigue haciendo vale mucho, porque casualmente me siento orgulloso de ella, porque como le acabé de decir, ella está aquí, ella está para todos los lados, ¿no? Como le dijo en la pandemia, hicimos muchísimas máscaras para EWC.
So many.
A lot. No.
Oh my God, we made PPEs for like the hospital, for Presbyterian, for Mount Sinai.
Sí.
It meant a lot to me also because it
Para el
went
equipo
back.
de fútbol.
Yeah, oh my God, absolutely. But it meant to me more because like these are the people that made sure that I stayed alive.
Lo más
during spinal
complicado
surgery.
es de producir, o sea, sacar las piezas de las camisetas, porque cuando usted le tiene el material, la tela, se le facilita más rápido para producir y trabajar, por lo que usted lo tiende y pone la marca, pero aquí usted tiene que cortar pieza por pieza.
O sea, cuéntenme sobre el proceso de esto, por
bastante.
favor. Empiece.
No, es que los procesos, cuando ya viene la orden, tenemos una orden de trabajar para lo que es hacer producción, lo que es production de lo que es camiseta, de lo que es fácil porque le dan el material, o sea, el material le viene por por yardas, ¿no? Por rollos. Entonces usted lo tiende, lo pone muchos paños, muchos telas
layers
encima.
of fabric, yeah.
Entonces usted produce, si son 100 o 50, muy fácil. Ejemplo, estos pantalones, usted le manda la tela, le hace el patrón, le hace la marca, entonces usted le llama y el resto
pero
es fácil.
Este caso,
en el caso de las máscaras, teníamos que sacar de las camisetas que tenían la compañía, entonces
y maximizar cada aspecto de la tela, me imagino.
Por pieza.
Wow.
¿Entiende?
So meticulous.
Para poder darle una idea a la gente, la magnitud de producción que ustedes están haciendo y han hecho en el pasado.
Yeah.
Como ejemplo, ¿cuántas camisetas de estas les pidieron que producieran? En general.
Oh my God, me perdí cuenta porque era como...
Mucho.
No me recuerdo, te lo juro, no me recuerdo porque
Pero
era como...
estamos hablando de 1000, estamos hablando de varias, o sea, como que 100, 200.
I think I lost track after like 5,000 I lost track.
5,000?
Shirts, yeah.
How big is your team, girl?
Huge. So we have a huge family too.
I mean,
so
that's good.
That's the start. That's the start. But we also had like, ¿cuánto teníamos de trabajadores? 50 trabajadores a ese tiempo porque necesitábamos muchas personas que nos ayuden en este proyecto. También
y luego
los
cuando
gowns.
se caen, ya la producción se va decayendo, entonces usted le parte el alma a decirle a la gente, ya no hay más trabajo. O sea, vamos a esperar que venga otra producción, o sea, es bastante difícil.
Know that feeling.
And the reality
know
of
that
this type of
feeling.
work that many people don't talk about, of you're very project based,
Yeah.
you know, and obviously the more clients the better, but that also means you're stretching out your team on multiple projects and differing timelines.
Yeah.
What timeline did you have to work with for a project like this most recent one of the New York City FC kit?
Oh my God, 2 months, 3 months. It like went by quick.
Wow.
We were
And
like,
that includes
okay,
the design process and production and everything?
So Milo came in, the head of design, and was like, hey, let's make this happen. And I was like, okay. And things were like moving in one direction, another direction. And it was like, let's do the campaign this way and let's do the campaign that way. And maybe we can gear it towards this way and that way. And like, let's ask everyone's opinion. So it was very much back and forth in order to get to this final product. And it's like, not many people see that the head of design is actually putting those 10,000 hours to make sure like a simple crescent is gonna like shine.
But also simple because it takes a lot of work.
It takes a lot of work because that probably
And let me
went
tell
through
you, it's very
so
comfortable.
many protocols just to like have the final piece. And then when I saw the leaks, I'm like, no, because I saw how it actually looked at that time, at that point, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. But no, this protocol, this like whole like prototype came out, it got leaked, and I'm like, well, this sucks. And that's something that I think some designers also understand how this feels. When their stuff get leaks, even celebrity artists, singers, when their music gets leaked out, and you're like, no, I put so many months, even to years, into making sure this comes out perfect, and then someone just decides to pull the plug and
there's so much
run with
care
it. Yeah,
that goes into the
exactly.
process that we as the public don't really ever get to see unless you go out of your way to share the behind the scenes.
Exactly.
However, I don't want that to discredit the hard work that you all have put. And, you know, talk about variety. You know, it started off with PPEs. You know, you've talked about gowns briefly.
Yeah.
Now, you know, a sports kit. Yeah. What else are you hoping to do? Like, think of manifestation and dream big. Like, if it's not already in the works and resources weren't a factor, what would you love to tackle next?
I really want to make more mass production. That's going to make me so happy. Not just, of course, it would be great for our business because then I could actually make sure my staff gets fed and ate and like everyone gets their paycheck and I don't have to worry about layoffs, because the less clients I have, the less work I have, the more I have to worry, because I know how my dad felt when he was laid off from the factory and then called back again because there was more production to be made, but he had to take it. He couldn't be like, this is unfair. I feel like I'm a dangling like puppet right now for you guys. And I don't want that to happen to these doñas and dons that I respect. Yo todas las mañanas le digo, cuando le veo a ellos, ¿Cómo está mi señora? ¿Cómo está mi don? ¿Cómo pasa? ¿Cómo era el desayuno? ¿Estás hermosa hoy? ¿Cómo están los niños? Ay, fantástico, encantada de escuchar eso.
Y eso es muy cultural también, eso es muy de los latinos.
And I appreciate every single effort they put in, and it hurts me whenever I don't have a client, whenever it hurts me to not be busy. So that's why I push myself so hard. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to sleep because I know I have my dad, my mom, my uncles, my aunts, and more so lives that they don't know me like that, but I care so much about them because I know their story. I've heard una señora que me dijo, oh, recién yo llego a este país y no sabía dónde trabajar y gracias a Dios por este trabajo le estoy pagando my kids' school back home, and I'm making sure my kids are fed, and that makes me feel like, okay, I have responsibilities not just for myself, but now I'm responsible for a whole team to make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I'm hopefully manifesting. Please, God,
Fingers
listen to me.
crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Mass
universe.
production, please, for
Thank
Digital
you.
Moda.
Please, clients, come through. I mean, like big, bulky clients. Small clients too are always welcome. I'm not going to say no to you guys. I love y'all too.
Well, because I was actually going to touch on that briefly as well, how you also, yes, of course, mass production is great, and a brand and a partnership like New York City FC is awesome,
Yeah.
but you also pride yourself in supporting small businesses
Yeah.
and up-and-coming fashion designers.
Yeah.
Why is that so important to you?
Because doors have been closed on me. As a woman, as a Latina, as someone young, the amount of times that I've heard, oh, you don't know any better, you're young. Oh, tú no sabes porque tú eres mujer. Ah, tú eres Latina, que tú sabes de todo eso. And I've cried. I felt FOMO. I felt like I shouldn't be in that room. I was in a room full of millionaire female founders, and they were like, wow, you're amazing and this and that. And then they were talking about topics that I didn't really necessarily relate it on. I felt like, am I even supposed to be in this room? I cried in the cab on my way home, and I was like, am I good enough? Am I not doing this enough? There's moments where I've had to question like myself, because I'm like, wait, why am I so quiet? I'm not a quiet person. I'm very charismatic. I'm one to like outspoken. If there's somebody that's quiet, out of my friends, I'll be like, oh, she wants the martini, but she doesn't want to say it. But I got you, girl. And that's not my character. So when I felt like at those events and like at those places that not typically like us Latinas are there, it feels very much intimidating. But I've talked to my colleagues. I've talked to, like, for example, one of my friends, Maria Isabel, she's in the sports like media industry, and she's told me, I know that feeling. Don't feel any bad. I understand that feeling. And I feel like uplifting each other also plays a huge factor in how I'm able to keep my mental health sane, because mental health means so much more these days. I'm grateful to God for that, because back when I was in middle school, that wasn't a thing. There was kids crying in the bathroom and not telling their friends and just staying quiet. And I've lost friends because of it. And I've lost people to depression. So it's not easy.
And the industry is very glamorized,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
it definitely has not been marked safe, you know, as
No,
people say,
not at all.
from mental health. We saw it with Kate Spade, and we've seen it with so many others, big names and otherwise. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I know that you mentioned, you know, you're going to be in a new space hopefully soon, and you haven't shared that before, so I appreciate that. Is there anything else that people can look forward to?
Oh, we're reinventing the website too.
Ooh,
we're going on
yes.
Shopify, because I want my clients to not just email me and feel like, oh my God, it's a drag. I have to ChatGPT this email like prompt and make sure that I don't look stupid. I've had clients tell me that, like, oh, I wanted to reach out to you, but since we're in person, I want to do this production. But I was so hesitant because I didn't want to approach it unprofessionally. And I'm like, no, girl, like, I'm very much new school. Let's have a chat. Let's talk like friends, because I can tell you're nervous, and it's okay. Let's break those brick walls down and make it happen. And let's work on budget. If you don't have budget, we can always circle back in the future, and that's okay. If we're not the perfect match, That's totally fine too. There's other manufacturers I wish can be kept alive in my industry. I try my best to uplift other businesses as well that are in the same industry, in the same boat as I am. I've had screen printing companies reach out to me like, hey, I can't do this job. Can you do it for me? Absolutely. We baton it to each other and make sure that we are helping each other out, because this is, it is a tough industry to stay alive in. But yeah, Shopify, we're going on Shopify. We're looking for the new location. We're setting up a creator studio so then our clients could actually start producing behind the scenes, because they've always wanted to. Like, I've always had clients like, can I just come to the factory and just show the behind the scenes on like our stories, or do like a little podcast episode right in front of the production team? I'm like, yeah, sure. Show off those details that matter. And
Yes.
Gap is doing it. Zach Posen is doing it.
So why not Digital Moda?
Why not Digital Moda? Why not your brand? Why not your small mom and pop store?
I
¿Sí
love
o no?
it. I love it.
Es posible.
Es posible.
Exacto.
I could stay here all day talking to you guys. I hope you say the same and that
Yeah,
you've had just
without a
as good of a
doubt.
time as I did.
Yeah.
To close us out, I want to talk about legacy. Quiero hablar sobre el legado que quieren dejar ustedes.
Yeah.
Empezando con usted, cuando piensa de la trayectoria, empezando con su esposa, ahora incluyendo a su hija y el resto de su familia, ¿qué legado quiere dejar? No solamente como persona y como hombre, padre de familia, pero también como negociante.
Que para todas las personas que les gusta esta carrera, lo que es el fashion, lo que es el distrito de la costura, que es posible, todo es posible. Para toda esa generación, que no se quede. O sea, el esfuerzo que usted está haciendo, lo que quiere hacer, siempre va a salir hacia adelante, que no se quede. Nadie se puede decir que no se puede, todo se puede. Un poquito de esfuerzo con un poquito de dedicatoria, créame que se lo hace.
Claro que sí.
Sí. Y para mi hija, pues, como siempre digo, lo mejor. Ella siempre está para ayudar a las demás personas que están queriendo aprender, que quieren hacer. O sea, no hay mejor cosa que ella está para administrar y apoyarles a las demás.
¿Hay algo que de pronto usted siente que no ha compartido con ella hasta el momento sobre el impacto que ha podido hacer? ¿Algún mensaje que quiere que ella jamás se olvide?
El mensaje que siempre que le respete a todo el mundo, sea humilde y siempre salga para adelante. Eso es lo que le va a ayudar muchísimo.
Amén.
¿No? Y le va a seguir siempre para adelante. Créame. O sea, es una muchacha, no es porque sea mi hija, es muy abierta, muy caritativa, o sea, busca la forma de ayudar a todo el mundo. Entonces, eso es lo que a mí me da gusto, y ver que para las nuevas generaciones que sigan trabajando,
Sí.
no se queden.
Claro que
No.
sí.
Ujú.
All right, go over to you. What legacy do you hope to continue to build and ultimately leave with the work that you're doing alongside your family?
I want to add on to what my dad said for sure. Be consistent, guys. I know it may look like it's nothing, and it might look like you're hitting a brick wall every single time in the wrong direction, but anything is possible. Truly, anything is possible. I'm a girl from Harlem, born and raised, didn't have the same resources as those in downtown with middle-class parents. I came from a lower-class family, and I made it happen. I don't know how, but I think the one thing was that made it happen for sure is like consistency and having that goal. For legacy, I was asked this when we were a part of the stadium, because I didn't share, like, I was a part of the stadium approval for Willets Point for New York City Football Club. I was a part of that team as well.
Girl, you were full of surprises.
So I remember I was talking to my friend, the city council member, Francisco Moya, ex-city council member, at the time city council member. He asked me, so what legacy do you want to leave here? And I want to give that image that anything is possible. Que todo es posible, que por más que de donde vienes, todo es posible. Con la habilidad, consistency. It is, sometimes the world may not be fair to you. I just recently got diagnosed with autoimmune condition that attacks my white blood cells, attacks my body and my joints, and like I'll feel groggy and tired, or like my body is always aching in pain. But what motivates me every single day is knowing that I'm doing this not just for myself, my kids in the future, my future generation, my neighborhood of Harlem. I want those kids to know like they don't have to go to the streets to find a future. Yeah. There's a future somewhere else if you just keep going.
Yeah.
And anything is possible. We're in New York City. Anything is possible. Mm-hmm. What's the worst that could happen?
Well, thank you both so much. Muchísimas gracias. Qué orgullo poder tenerlos acá conmigo, de verdad. Cuentan con mi apoyo. You guys can count on me from a distance, as close as you would like me as well. Consider me a friend. Pero de verdad, y lo dije al principio, qué felicidad haber podido compartir este espacio y compartir la historia de ustedes, que es única y a la vez muy similar a la de otros inmigrantes. Y son testamento que, como dicen ustedes, with hard work, with heart, and despite the challenges, you can achieve anything and everything, even if it's hard. So, muchas gracias de verdad. Me quito el sombrero.
Gracias, Linda, a usted por ayudarnos, por darnos esta entrevista, por abrirnos las puertas, por hacernos el interview. Le agradezco de corazón a usted y a toda la compañía, en especial Catherine, a usted y a mi hija que estamos aquí presentes.
Claro,
y para el futuro, pues...
Que vuelvan.
I'm excited. We're teaching people how to pattern make at our new space. Like, I'm so excited. We're teaching people how to make blanks. And the fact that we're making also blanks for like businesses to not spend so much money and everything's in house, we're trying to make sure they budget as well.
And I love it.
Yeah.
Felicitaciones and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening and watching. Until next time.